Hey everybody, welcome to a new edition of Revival Town Podcast Season 2. Spring is in the air, Andy.
Come on. How are you doing?
Doing great, mate. How you doing?
Good. I like that hat you've got on. People can't see it, but it's Binge Jesus.
Binge Jesus, taken from The Chosen. I binged Jesus, as in watched every episode of The Chosen like in 3 days. But I'm ready for Season 2.
They're recording it, right? That's what I've heard.
So, yeah, they've already shot Season 2.
Oh, okay.
Well, obviously we're pre-recording this, so yeah, they've shot it, and man, I'm ready. You're into it now.
I'm into it now. I'll be honest with you. I did text you, and I'm like, I'm finding it hard, the backstories. But then when you explained that he wanted to create a backstory so you understood why, like for instance, you totally see now how hard it was for Matthew to become a disciple because he'd been after money from the disciples, from Peter and Simon and Andrew.
Absolutely. And he obviously, tax collectors were despised, they were hated. And we read that, you read it, but you don't really think about the individual. You don't think about the rejection that he experienced, the things that he went through. So I love that Dallas Jenkins creates a backstory to show you what could have happened, and that gives the actual story, I think, greater impact.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'd watched the first two, and that's when I texted you, and I'm like, dude, I'm having trouble with this because it's not in the Word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then you then start to really see what he's trying to get at, and it really did come alive then.
And when it comes to the Word, the one thing that Dallas has made clear is the dialogue that includes Scripture. They do not add from it. They do not take away. It is straight from the Word of God. Yeah. So that makes, obviously, me just be able to relax a little bit, right?
Yeah,
and it's so good. So I'm binging Jesus. I'm wearing the hat.
There you go. And
I'm even wearing the shirt.
I know, man.
I got the jammas.
You like the...
Gotta get a new binge Jesus jumper.
Oh, man. Well, today, what we've just talked about has nothing to do with who we've got on our podcast today. By the way, I want to thank you for tuning in. I mean, we have had thousands of people that are downloading this, and just wanted to say thank you. I know Edify have been a part of it in recent episodes, and if you're looking for a way to listen to the podcast, you may be listening to this on our website right now. If you go onto Edify, as well as all the other platforms, but on Edify, you can actually subscribe. So every week when we bring a new episode out, it will tell you immediately.
And it's really easy because my mom figured it out. Every single podcast before we were on the Edify network, I would have to send her the link to revivaltownpodcast.com. How can I listen? I'm like, telling you, Mom, go to the website. Or, so and I would send her a link. Well, then we got on Edify, and Edify is Edifi, not Y, Edify with an I at the end, and download the app. She downloaded the app, she subscribed, and she no longer has any troubles finding our new episodes.
That's good. That's good.
Mama Tate can do it.
Yeah.
Believe me, anybody can. Sorry, Mom.
Well, today we have a guest on the show who's a friend of mine, been a long-time friend. His name's Martin Smith. Martin Smith was the lead singer for the worship band, because they weren't just worship, Delirious, a UK band that, I'll be honest with you, Chuck, and you can talk into this as well, being a pastor. There was worship like in the 80s, 70s, 80s, but Delirious changed the landscape for the modern worship sound. They brought a fresh sound that really did change the worship movement that we know today. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. They were definitely pioneers to the modern worship sound. And the history of the church that I lead, Rock Church, when we left the Bible Belt, Tulsa, my wife and I, to plant Rock Church in 1998, we wanted to create a church for people who didn't feel comfortable in a traditional church setting. This is before people were doing contemporary services, and
Right.
and Rock Church was one of the very first contemporary churches. Northwoods was probably the first, but we were the first modern in this area. Yeah. In the world. In the area. We were definitely the first modern rock and roll worship style of church. Now everybody has kind of, it's become, like you said, a movement. And Delirious, they led the charge. I mean, Delirious and Sonic Flood. And I mean, they're right there.
Yeah. And so today we've got Martin on, and he really opens up just some funny stories, some things of what they went through, and also what he's doing now is still equipping the church. Even though Delirious have ended, what he's doing, he's still, what he says is, we're just singing over people.
You know what? And give you a little teaser. I ask him about the accolades, and sometimes balancing that sometimes that validation. In fact, Ellie talked a little bit about it when she was on. His daughter was on, and Tim Jupe from Delirious. We've had him previously on Revival Town podcast. I just loved Martin Smith's heart.
Yeah.
Love the heart. Love the answer. So pay attention. Listen up. You're going to enjoy this.
So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or hot chocolate, and enjoy this interview with Martin Smith.
This podcast is part of the Edify Podcast Network. Edify is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edify app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edify.app. That's edifi.app.
Well, Chuck, we are going to be talking with not just someone who has changed the worship scene globally, but also a friend of mine. And we've actually had his daughter on the show and his brother-in-law already in the last few months. We had Tim Jupe on just a few months back, and then Ellie Linebear was on. And we are so thankful and privileged to have Martin Smith with us today, who was the lead singer with Delirious from 92 to 2009. But then from there has just been, he thought he was taking a little time off after that, but just has been tearing it up as doing solo stuff. He has written songs like I Could Sing of Your Love Forever, God's Great Dance Floor, Majesty, History Maker. I mean, we could go on and on. And yet today he has taken time. He's in the UK right now in Brighton, and he's taken time to be with us. Martin, it is great to be with you today.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking time to hang with us.
Oh, it's amazing. Thanks for allowing me on. This is amazing.
Well, you know, with technology now, we're able to do stuff like this, and the podcast we launched in November, and we've really been able to bring people on the show that have created movements throughout the world and are seeing things happen. And Martin, you know, we go back a long way, and I could not have gone any further on this podcast without getting you on. And I wouldn't have heard the end of it if I hadn't have asked you to come on, and Ellie would have been on and not asked you. So,
oh, amazing! No, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you.
Well, today we're going to step into the life of Martin Smith and what he has brought to the church globally. Martin, I know that these last few years have been a little bit different for you. For many years, you were part of a band that really changed music history within the church scene. I want to step back, if that's okay, and just talk about those early years. This podcast is called Revival Town Podcast, and we called that after a song that you wrote.
Yeah, the whole name inspired by your song.
I can't remember the last time we did the Revival Town song. I certainly haven't, I don't think, done that since the end of Delirious. But that really sums up, I think the world of Delirious was a bunch of young guys. We were passionate about God. We were passionate about our community. We were passionate about culture. We didn't just want to be, like a Christian band, although there's great things about that. We wanted to be the next Radiohead or the next U2 or the next other band that was out there. So that's where our heads were, if you can imagine that. And so we had this mix of wanting to engage in the culture we lived in, but also this faith of, if God steps into our life, into our streets, into our homes, into our communities, he can change everything. And it's something that, never left us. It's never left me. The fact that, the same God that led the Israelites out of the Red Sea is the same God that's alive in our lives today and can do anything. Wow. So hence Revival Town. Let's be in faith. Let's expect God to come in glory. And I guess every time we went out and played, we were carrying that theme. That was what we were carrying.
Yeah. And it really did hit the streets. I mean, the way you guys started back, in the parks, and just tell us a little bit about that. Just some of those early years, and even some of the things that happened to you that really sparked that band to we got to take this even one more step. Tell us a little bit about Live and in a Can, for instance, is probably one of the best worship albums that has ever been made, Chuck. It's incredible. A lot of those early sounds are still being sung in churches today. I know I was at your church a few months back, and we were singing "Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble?" and
Obsession. Something that's still on our list. And Martin, I planted a church over 22 years ago, and all throughout the history of our church, we've sung your song. So it's pretty cool to be looking at you today and listening to you.
But what was those early years like?
As I say, we were slightly naive. We were full of faith.
Yeah.
We were English.
Yeah.
I think that was part of who we were. To be fair, we weren't an American band on that circuit, and so I think we saw the world through slightly different eyes. We live on a small island in the UK. I mean, there are hardly any people that have made a living from Christian music in the UK.
Right.
It's a very small scene. There isn't really an industry, to be fair. And then suddenly, we're in America, in the great land of opportunity, and we're discovering, wow, there's radio stations, there's proper record companies, there's publishers, you can go on these huge outdoor shows, creation and festivals, and there's 80,000 people, and it just completely blew our minds. We were, at the time, simply leading a youth event called Cutting Edge for the kids in our town, in Littlehampton, on the south coast of England. 70 kids we started with, but we were seeing God do some miracles, and it grew and grew. And as you referred to earlier, we lived by the sea. Once a year, we would rent these kind of flatbed trucks, we used to call them, and we'd set up on those, and we would set up on the sea, right, not actually on the water, but just on the grass by the sea, and we would lead worship, and people just used to come from everywhere. And not just church people, but of course everyone's wandering past and thinking, wow, what on earth is all this going on about? We were baptizing kids were getting saved. But I think it was the noise and the sound of abandoned worship is what I remember. Just the youth of Great Britain lifting up their eyes, lifting up their heads, lifting up their hands, and worshipping like it was the last night on earth.
Yeah. And you guys were doing that. Some of you guys were still having other jobs. This wasn't like full time on the early years. But then you had an incident that really like shook you up when you were coming back from a gig in Lincoln. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that really was a pivotal point, I do believe.
Yeah, sure. We did have different jobs at the time. Stu G was an electrician. I think Tim ran a studio. Stu Smith was a designer. I was a sound engineer, started producing a bit. And I was at a conference, as you say, in Lincoln, which is in the north of England, recording a worship record for this conference. And my wife was with me, Anna. We'd only been married, a year. And we decided to travel back through the night because our little niece had been born and we were going to go and see her in the hospital. And we had a bad car smash at like 3 a.m. I drove into a wall and nearly killed, it could have been quite fatal. And anyway, I broke my leg and got myself in a right old mess and spent some time in hospital. And it was while I was in there, well, a couple of things actually. While I was in hospital lying there, I wrote the song Obsession.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And then had started to have this sort of idea of, hey, I've been given my life back. What if we just left our jobs and just, went full time in music? So one by one, as the guys would come in and visit me in hospital, it was like already I was like getting ready for the next season.
Wow.
And like, guys, what if we did this? What if we went for this? And it started an amazing journey of all the families and wives and having to sit down like, do I want to do this even? And can I do this? Can we support ourselves? Is God asking us to do this? And in the end, that was the birth of Delirious.
Wow. So it was really something that you thought could have ended everything, actually started everything, this car wreck.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like that's how it works, doesn't it? There's normally a shock or a break in the system, which then makes you stop, rethink everything, and then that's usually where God gives you a new idea.
Yeah. And so from that, this new idea of, okay, let's do this full time, let's go for it. That then really started a lot of different things for you guys, because like you mentioned, the Christian music scene wasn't big in the UK, pretty much non-existent. And so you had to think differently about how you were going to reach that generation. And so it was, hey, we're going to play it to anyone, which got the Radio 1 and other major national radio stations listening. And tell us a bit about that, because that's different than over here where you do everything in the Christian world and hopefully you'll make it. Here, you're literally presenting the message of Christ in a way that is compatible, but also the message still gets out.
Yeah, and I think as well, as I referred to earlier on, I think being British gave us a different freedom and a license to go and be evangelists. And I think, I can see sort of, if you're a band, you're church guys growing up in a church and you want to be a rock and roll band, you're always going to get people saying, whoa, like that's the dark side. If you want to sort of be the Killers or be whoever it is, mainstream, well, stay away from danger. And partly that's true, some of that. But I think that we just, as I said, we didn't have that frame here. And we were like, great, let's just, if Radiohead can get on the radio, so can we.
Right. And, it was that faith element.
We just believed in it so much, and we believed that God was on it. And also we wanted to sing, and this is really important, we were called to sing over people that would never come to church. And I think that was really at the heart of who Delirious were. Was this? If we were worship evangelists, we wanted to be on the front of the army, singing over our nation, and you never know, calling people back to Jesus. I think we need that in the worship scene. We need the worship evangelists to not worry about Christian radio and worry about this and chart positions and publishing, but to go into the cities, go into the street and sing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a wonderful thing. And we did crazy stuff like we played shows in record stores on the high street in London, and be thousands of people outside watching what was going on, and we're just singing about being history makers and the truth of standing up for truth. And we're in the high street in London with just people.
Yeah.
It was great.
And it even led to like Wembley Stadium, right? You played the old Wembley Stadium, and really saw this movement of worship, Chuck, that affected us here. But I know, Chuck, we were talking before, talking to Martin about just what it's like being a worshipper, and in that time, you just hit it right on. It wasn't just about creating worship for the church; it was putting the worship out on the streets. And I think that's really
speaking the language of today. And as Andy was sharing, obviously you've played Wembley Stadium, you've done the big arenas, you've done on a flatbed by the sea, you've done all of this, right? So, and throughout the success of your career, I would think it would be easy at times to be distracted by the accolades, the affirmations of people. When you're writing to worship, you're writing to God, you're leading people into the presence of God. Was it tough sometimes to balance keeping the heart of worship, right? We sing the heart of worship. Was it easy to be distracted by the affirmations of people when ultimately you're playing to lead people into the presence of God in worship?
You know what? This answer might surprise you. I've struggled with many different things over my life. Different things, but that has never been a struggle for me. I don't know why. I'm married to someone who would never allow any of that in our house anyway. And so, we've got a culture in our house that, you can play an arena, you can be a school teacher, you can be a nurse, it's all the same. We're all trying our best. I admire you guys. I admire Andy for all the work he's doing in Peoria. Unbelievable stuff for years and years. We're all on a level playing field.
Yeah.
So I've never really seen myself as that. And it's great, of course, at times when the work that you do is praised. As artists and creative people, you need that every now and again. You need to know that what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
I never really, got into that. And also, I'm not very nostalgic as a person. So I don't often look back and sit in my room and go, oh, how wonderful was that? I mean, I only talk about it when I do these sorts of things.
Right.
Sure.
So I don't really live in the past. There's a lot happening today which is equally as exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to God for it. But, there's a new song to write, and I think that thing in me that was always pressing on always trumped the feeling of, aren't we amazing?
Yeah. And Chuck, I'm going to tell you a story, and I don't think Martin has ever heard this story, just because it was something that happened in our family while we were visiting Martin and his family at his home. The first time we ever went to visit Martin, he wasn't living where he's living now in Brighton. He was in Littlehampton. And one of the afternoons, he said, hey, let's go down to our beach hut. They have this little beach hut right on the beach there. And it's where really they store all, surfboards and things like that. And he has a guitar in there, obviously, and there's tea and, all this. So we went down there, and my Joy, she was very young at that time. I don't know, probably 5, 6, something like that. And we'd had a good afternoon on the beach, and it's a pebbly beach down there, so there's not much sand. But I remember I had taken the boys to the ocean side, and we had walked back up. And as I came back up, Joy was on Martin's lap, and he had his guitar, and he was just singing a song with Joy. And I remember going, here's a guy who a few years back was playing to 80,000 people with Bon Jovi, but yet he's got time to just sing a song to my daughter. That's exactly what he's talking about when it comes to, it's not about the accolades and things like that. And a moment in time that we'll remember. Our family will definitely remember.
Absolutely. Something very special. Shows your heart, Martin. And in fact, just last night I was on the treadmill listening to the entire Iron Lung album. And great stuff, by the way. Loved it. And I found myself, I went from running to just to worshiping. And the song Rise Up was on, and I just had my hands up. I'm on the treadmill, and I'm worshiping just in the presence of God in my garage. And it got me thinking about worship and the importance of the presence of God. And as a pastor, just even a few weeks ago, I was on a 5-week preaching sabbatical, and I showed up for one of the services, and I was just standing in the back worshiping and watching. And in the service that I was in, I was surprised by, for a moment, just the lack of engagement, the lack of people worshiping, and it did something in my heart. And I talked about it with our staff and our team, even our worship pastor, like, man, we have got to be in the presence of God. Yeah. And we've just, and we can't live without being in the presence. And obviously worship goes way beyond just 4 songs before a message. But how important is the presence of God to you?
I mean, who are we? Who are we without his presence? We're just smoke and bones, aren't we?
Wow. Yeah, that's good.
I think, I mean, I'm deeply passionate about that idea that wherever you are, whether you've got the bright lights on a stage, or you're in your beach hut, or you're, in the depths of despair, you can always lift your head, can't you? Yeah. Psalm 121, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? It comes from, the maker of heaven. We can always lift our head and find him. And I guess that is at the heart of, worship. When we come together, we sing, or sit in silence, or kneel, or pray, or lift our hands, or wave, or run around, or dance, or give away some money, or cook some food for some people. You've just sensed that God himself is in the middle of all those things, and is attracted to those things. And so he's never far away, is he? Never far away. And I hope, in our sort of postmodern church culture, that we never lose that. Someone said to me the other day, one of the issues they had with kind of maybe a younger generation is that we're more passionate about the process of worship rather than the person of worship.
That's good.
So we our call to worship is, a great in-ear mix with a click, with great arrangements, big fat snare, and it's all sounding brilliant. Now, all of that stuff I love, right. So I'm not saying that's bad, but when it's the call to worship, that's where we're on tricky ground. So, if we walk into a church and we're just about our stuff, suddenly there's like, I was like, oh great, that's my call to worship.
Right.
But it's not.
Right.
And our call to worship is that first breath in the morning, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, we awake, we lift our head and go, wow, I'm still alive. Thank you, God. Andy looks in the mirror and says, wow, I'm so gorgeous.
You better believe it.
Yeah, squib.
How did I get so good looking?
Oh, man. Oh.
When I get up in the morning, my wife looks at me and goes, what a plonker.
Yeah.
So you, I mean, obviously, Delirious did come to an end in 2009, but that wasn't the end. That actually, for you, I think, was a starting point. Yeah, you took a little bit of time off to be with the kids. You have 6 kids, and amazing kids. Obviously, we've talked about Ellie, that's already starting to do worship, but a lot of your kids are doing music. I know Levi's phenomenal guitarist. I know Noah's launching stuff as we speak. Just a lot of stuff going on. But for that time after Delirious, you just felt it was time to just pause a little bit. It wasn't too long, though, before you started really writing and doing solo projects. How was that compared to being with 4 guys, 3 of them being family members, to now having to not recreate, that's the wrong word. Look at music differently with new, young, fresh band members, trying to get the music out because something was in you wanted to get out. Was that a different process than the early years starting Delirious?
Yes, it was. I would look back on that season as not being very easy. I think it was quite a difficult time. When you step out of something that is so fantastic, and I have to say that it was the most amazing team to be a part of. The caliber of people that I was around, they were all amazing. And we had this common dream. And when you have a common vision where people pull together for the same thing, there's literally no limits, Right. The sum of all the parts is so much greater. And you cannot, you can't know that unless you've been in a band or a great team or run a great company, that incredible dynamic of people coming together. So I did miss that.
Yeah.
And I would say I still miss that. And when I talk to the guys and Stu G, and that's the first thing, like I miss that feeling. But the travel was so intense, and I had young kids growing up. Noah, who's our number 2, was about to become a teenager. And I just kind of had that thing of, look, I have a feeling that we're right on the edge of what we can cope with here, and I felt the release to, that assignment for me was over, and it was a very painful year. To end something that's so great is never ever going to be easy,
Right.
It just won't be.
And with having family involved as well, probably that added even more weight to it.
Yeah, and that's right. You get the blessing and the difficulty of that. You're all so close, and you're all at church together. You're all at Sunday lunch together, kids' birthday parties together.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a sort of that much of a degree of separation. But we've lived through that, and fought for that, and everyone's in a good place now. But yeah, it did leave a void, and it took me quite a long time to even get to the place where I wanted to get in the studio and write. It was just an exhausting situation, and I just needed time out.
Yeah. So during that time out, obviously, were you still writing, or was it like, I'm just taking a breather from everything musically? Or was there anything that came out of that time, like a groan-in or anything, but that now is out? Or was it like, I just need a break?
Yeah, I think it was a bit like that. I just went underground for a bit, I just wanted to enjoy, being at home.
Yeah.
And just doing ordinary stuff, and wasn't so concerned about making a record or writing songs at that time. I did get involved with a guy that Tim Hughes.
Yeah.
And a great friend of mine, and we started writing together. So that helped me,
Yeah.
And that was a mutual thing. And then it ended up producing his record during that first year. So that was a good thing. But if anyone's gone through the end of something or winding something down or stepped away from something, you do need that period of time of transition to not rush into the next stage, but wait on God and wait for the next assignment.
Yes. Yeah.
So Martin, what is your process or routine for writing a record? Is it the same process for every time you write, or is it different?
I enjoy the collaboration. So, most of the songs are co-written with one or two other people. Iron Lung, the reason that's got a bit more of a band feel to it is because the guys in my band, in my team, we took half of those songs, started on the floor. And that's a term that we say, when we're all gathered in the studio floor together. That can be a great writing experience. Some people don't like that, but I like that. And so, we formed a lot of those songs. Everybody Is Broken, Fire's Gonna Fall, came out of jamming together.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So that was exciting. Other songs, were written with completely different people outside of the mix. And that was fine as well. But I am proud of it. Commercially, it may not have kind of really impacted the scene, but I'm proud of it, and it might be something that just takes a while to burn.
Yeah.
It might get there in the end.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned just then about collaboration, and during this season with what's going on with the pandemic, and the UK, Chuck, has really been hit very hard. Just to try and give a bit of perspective, the UK is about the size of Illinois. Okay, so England, Wales is about the same size as Illinois, and they've just gone over 100,000 deaths in the UK. So if you could imagine that in Illinois, that really does bring it into perspective.
Absolutely.
And I do believe you guys are still on lockdown. Is that correct, Martin?
Yeah, that's correct. We can go walking with one person out in the fields or on the street, just with one other person, 2 meters distance, but we're not allowed anybody in our house. And we can go and get food and groceries and shopping, but pubs are shut and restaurants are shut.
Yeah.
All the stores are shut, and so we and our kids are homeschooling.
Right.
So schools are shut at the moment, and we're looking at reopening in April.
Wow.
So it's extraordinary, isn't it? And this is the second lockdown we've had.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's very unusual.
I did see, though, on your Instagram that you've started jumping on the water a little bit. What do they call that, Martin? What are they called? Paddleboard?
There's a big craze here called paddleboarding.
Yeah.
And it's like a surfboard, but inflatable. So you can pump air into it, and then it becomes this surfboardy type thing. And then we paddle out on the sea, and we love that. I mean, the sea at the moment is freezing cold.
I was just about to say, it's not like we're not in the south of France type of thing here.
No, this is not Hawaii. But it's part of our lockdown, like keeping us sane, is that we go out and we'll even swim in the cold water just to sort of keep us alive.
Now you do have wetsuits on, right? That is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're always writing, and you're always probably jotting down song ideas. What's next for Martin Smith?
Good question. Well, what's come out of lockdown for me is still, you still wake up in the morning with a desire to want to sing for people, or sing over people, or keep leading people. Our church has been shut for a long time now. So I've started to, lead a little bit of worship from my home here, and it's firstly into an iPad, and then I started to film them a bit better, and sending those to different churches around the world, just so it sort of keeps them going. Just a 20-minute set just to put in their online service. So that's been good, and then it developed into, well, what if I made these available to everyone? And so hence the birth of Glowworks TV, which is what I've called it. And you can go on glowworkstv.com. You can download worship sets, not just myself, but collaborations with many different worship leaders that you know and love, mostly from the UK at the moment, because obviously we can't travel.
Right.
But no, we've got stuff from Colombia coming in soon, and Brazil and Eastern Europe, and just trying to make it sort of a place where people can go and find stuff that they can use online. So that's what we've been doing.
Love it. So what advice would you give to young worship leaders, worship pastors, or really next generation of musicians and worshipers? I mean, your daughter is leading a charge, and so what advice would you have for those who are listening today that are involved in worship?
Well, I think mainly, we've got to be ourselves, haven't we? You're uniquely made. We're all uniquely made, and so the way we lead is going to be unique. And I think we must resist the temptation to copy different people or styles, or even songs. Like if I string those 4 songs together that are popular, then we're going to have a great worship show today. But be yourself. Experiment. Just be creative. But most of all, love your people. You can't lead worship for people that you don't really love. I'm not meaning on a tour around the. I'm meaning in your home church. You got to love your people, and they will know if you do or don't.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I think it's important that we don't. It's not just a job, is it? We open up our homes. We have people over to eat food, and just be with us, and we live our lives out on the outside. So that's important. No secrets.
Yes.
Don't have any shadows in your life that people can go, oh, I'm not sure about that guy. Looks like he's hiding something, or try and keep your hands clean and your heart pure. Psalm 24. Of course, it's hard, easier said than done.
Right.
But let's attain to that, and just lead your people with honesty and integrity and humor. And if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter, does it?
Right.
Yeah.
We're in the presence of God. He's our Father. He's not that worried if we mess up. So, yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Well, Martin, we're coming close to the end here, and every conversation we have with different individuals, we always ask them to just pray for people who may be listening. You may have been listening today. You may be in the middle of lockdown, and just hearing Martin talking about how they've had to handle it and how trying to think creatively to worship and to obviously stay connected with people. You may be there going, yeah, that's me. Martin, could you just pray into this time, and especially those who may find it hard to worship at this time?
Absolutely.
During lockdown or during churches that are closed? Could you pray to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Father God, we thank you for who you are. And when our life seems to be a little chaotic or unsure, or we feel that the earth beneath us is moving a bit and we're insecure, we know that you're a God who never changes, that you're the same yesterday, today and forever. And we do trust you. You're the God who led the Israelites out of Egypt. You did so many miracles. You gave them manna in the morning. You healed the blind person. You have done so many incredible things, and so we do trust you. We do trust you. And right now we just receive your presence. Come, Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Come upon all of us, and wherever we are, we know that you are with us and you will never abandon us. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Man, that was good.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank
for
you
that.
so much.
We are going to do something right now coming out of that we do every week, Martin, and this has got nothing to do with what we just talked about.
But we love what we just talked about, and thank you for sharing your heart and speaking into us and our listeners and praying for our listeners. So, in fact, we should probably have him share how can people connect with him.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody that might be from a younger generation. This is the first time they've been introduced to Martin. Martin, how can our people connect with you?
Well, I think you could go on Instagram and maybe follow me on Instagram, which is Martin Smith TV, and that will be one way. I think that's probably the only way, really. And again, the glowworkstv.com. You can have a look on that website and see if there's anybody that you know that can do that subscription for a church that doesn't have cameras and a media team. So yeah,
it's a great resource.
That'd be great. It'd be nice to stay in touch.
Yeah, Chuck, it is amazing what Martin's talking about. Basically, he's created worship sets for churches who perhaps they can't get their musicians together, maybe they can't get into their building. You can bring those live worship sets into their service anywhere in the world. And some of the people that he's talking about that has joined him aren't just guys that are doing stuff now. I mean, he's had Graham Kendrick joining him. Obviously, Ellie has joined him a few times. So it's been really good. And I've got family members who have churches who have been using this in the UK and have just found it an incredible resource. So if you're listening and you're like, we're struggling with worship, this is a great way. And it doesn't have to end when everything goes back to normal, because this is a great resource for small groups, youth groups, things like that. So.
Absolutely. Well, we had Austin Savage on the podcast, the director of 95 Network, and 95% of churches in the United States are 500 people or less. Martin, so this is a great resource for pastors that are struggling to have a worship team. So excellent.
Yeah.
So glowworks.com.
Yeah. So
Glowworks
TV.
Glowworks TV. All right.
Yeah, I got to correct him all the time, man. I'm sorry.
You know, us deaf people. We can't get anything right.
All right, let's go with the three big questions. Chuck, do you want to start with one?
Yeah, all right, here we go, Martin. The big three. The very first question I have for you is, if you could co-write a song with anyone who is alive, who would it be?
Oh, great question. Chris Martin.
Oh, now that would be a
Brothers.
good collaboration.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Why'd you say that, Martin? What do you like about him?
Well, the urban myth, and apparently it's true, is that when we were playing in his city that he was in, I think it was Exeter, I think he was where he lived, he was 16 and he came to see us play.
Wow.
And I've heard from a few sources that he really liked the King of Fools record.
Wow.
And that, you know, so I think there's a connection there, you know.
Yeah.
His mum is an amazing Christian lady, and you know, so there's a great, you know, there's an anointing on his life, you know. He's a worship leader, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
you know, hopefully, you know, that'd be great to do that one day.
And you've had a few run-ins with Marcus Mumford as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, just a couple of occasions. You know, a great guy, and amazing what they've done. And,
that'd be a great collaboration right there.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. All right, I've got a question. What is the funniest bus or tour bus story that you've got?
I can remember, you know, in every tour bus there's like a section of the roof that slides back, like a sunroof we call it, you know, where you can put your head out the top, you know.
Yeah.
But really you should only do that when the bus is stationary, you know, when you're actually parked up. But I remember one of our crew, we were driving, I don't know, across America somewhere, and you know, we were getting a bit bored, you know, and we had this bright idea, hey, let's open up the roof and like stick our heads out, and anyway, we were driving along innocently, like, hey, this is amazing, and then someone from the front of the bus shouted, get your head down, and anyway, we went into this tunnel, and we all sort of took a deep breath and expected this guy's head to sort of roll across the floor, having been chopped off. But thankfully, you know, he snuck in just at the right time.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That would have been a bad story.
Yeah.
Was that the inspiration with the title King of Fools?
Hey, I do have a funny bus story, if Martin doesn't mind me sharing it, because it was one of the funniest things that I've experienced in all the bands that have come to Peoria. The day that Martin and the guys, I think it was the second time they came to the church, they'd done the event, and we went back on their bus because our kids were hanging out with their kids. And that day, Chris Tomlin and the Passion guys had just bought out a new live worship CD from their events, right? And Tomlin was a few years into it. People were really getting into him. And so we walk on, and I had told Martin, I said, hey, Tomlin's done one of your songs, Our God Reigns. And he's like, oh, bring it. And a typical musician, you know, it's just like 12:30 at night. Bring it on the bus. We're going to play it. So we go on the bus, we put it on and start this song. And so Martin turns around and goes, hey, Tomlin's got this new CD out. Listen to this. Listen to this. They play Our God, and they start the CD with Our God Reigns. And I'll always remember Becca, who is Tim's wife. We had Tim on the show.
Yeah.
She was sitting in the corner looking really puzzled. And she turned to Martin and said, how is this new? Because I've heard this before, but I don't know where I've heard it from. and Martin goes, I wrote it. We sing it.
Oh, it's good It's good to have wives, isn't it, that are completely disinterested. It's a healthy thing, isn't it?
Last question.
All right, last question. Yeah. If a label approached you, Martin, and they said, "Okay, Martin, you have free reign. Pick any genre to do this album, besides worship, besides pop rock, make a record. What genre are you going to choose?"
I'd love to make a record like Kanye's.
Really?
Like a Jesus is King type record. With
cool.
With just that vibe, that spoken word thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I do like that. Whether my kids would think that was completely ridiculous might be another thing. But I love all that stuff.
That's good. Well, Martin, we want to thank you for being with us today. I know people are going to really enjoy hearing this, and I appreciate not just you musically, but we go back and we've had some great laughs, and I know we'll have plenty more along the road. But I just wanted to thank you for being on Revival Town podcast today.
Great, thank you so much, guys. What an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice dance moves.
It's a good thing this is audio only. Oh man!
How good was that?
You know what? I love the big three questions too. I think that was fun. I loved his answers.
Yeah.
And how cool is it that Chris Martin went to a Delirious concert to see Martin Smith?
Yeah.
Martin and Martin.
I brought up Marcus Mumford from Mumford and Sons, which are massive at the minute, and he didn't go into it, but Marcus was in a discipleship training year program that Tim Hughes headed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And came out of that and started Mumford and Sons, and just probably on the last album, Marcus Mumford invited Martin to the studio while they were recording, and Martin took a picture in Abbey Road while these guys were. I think it was Abbey Road. I'm not sure. It was one of the studios in London. So yeah,
and it's cool. He didn't even jump to share all that. He's just a humble dude.
Yeah,
I like him.
And a heart for the local church.
Absolutely.
I mean, what he is doing now, in trying to equip churches to do worship during this time, because it's tough, especially in the UK. I've got family over there. I mean, they're not doing birthdays and weddings, and I mean, it's when
it's
they
lockdown.
say lockdown, it is locked down. You know, so we appreciate Martin coming on today.
Man, thank you, Martin.
Now it is March 1st.
I'm having a feeling there's something significant in the UK.
Well, in the UK, March 1st, it is St. David's Day.
St. David's Day.
Now, we know St. Patrick's Day, right? That's just happened. St. Patrick's Day for Ireland.
Yep.
St. David's Day is for Wales.
Okay.
It's the patron saint of Wales. And so...
Like Save the Whales?
Not Save the Wales.
A different Wales.
Oh my!
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
So because of that, I thought we would go a little Welsh with Tate and his mate today.
Is there is there a color associated with St. David's Day? Like green is associated with St. Patrick's Day. Is there a color or no?
It's like, well, the flag is got a dragon, right?
Okay.
And so you'll find a lot of well, I've got to set this up. Hold tight. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
This is for all the Welsh people. Here we go.
If you're just joining us, I'm sorry. No. I'm kidding.
This is the Welsh national anthem. So at a rugby game,
I thought it was a spot for the Crown season the next season.
Well, you will see in Wales the next season that you're going to watch. But This is the Welsh anthem, and they are known for their singing in Wales. The choirs, the male choirs, and when there's a rugby game, they'll have 100,000 people singing this. Wow. You'll never experience anything like it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what I thought we would do for this Tate and his mate is I was going to give you two words that are used in Wales.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm going to really mess this up. I'm going to try to speak Welsh.
You're going to mess it up.
Okay, here we go.
I don't have it.
Borador. Borador.
Borazor.
Borador. What am I saying? Borador.
Borador. Chuck, tell us about this journey.
So what do you think I'm saying there? Borador.
Borador. I'm trying to do a Spanish voice. Hey, amigo, Borador. Okay. I can't breathe. Borador. So I need to come up with what that means, right?
Yes.
It's a phrase. Can you use it in a sentence?
I just did. Borador.
Borador. What's up, man? Borador. What's up?
It actually means good morning.
Good morning. Okay.
So
Borador.
Borador.
Good morning. Good morning. I learn something every week.
I know. Now there is a word that isn't Welsh that I was going to try and throw your way, and I'll try and put it into context. The Welsh love to say this. They love to say, "Oh, that was lush."
Oh, that was lush.
That was lush.
That was lush.
Like that painting. Oh, that's lush.
That's cool, man. I'm gonna go with cool.
You close. It means that's nice.
That's nice.
That's nice. That's lush.
Oh, that's nice. That's lush.
Yeah.
He's a lush fellow.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a bit of Welsh for
He's
you.
a plonker, but he's lush.
No, I did catch you put plonker in the interview with Martin Smith.
Yes. I worked it in. I got him to laugh, I think.
Now, you may be listening and going, what are they talking about? Every week, we do a thing called Tate and his mate. Obviously, I'm from the UK. There's a lot of words, a lot of sayings, a lot of slangs in the UK that are not used over here. And we have had major fun with this, right?
We really have.
So many people are getting involved with this, trying to use these words in an everyday sentence, just like what you did today with Martin, which he may not know that you've just learned that word, but it was brilliant how you did it, mate. It was brilliant. But you've had a lot of response from people.
A lot of people have now texted me with, damp squib and not just plonker, but even Fortnite. In fact, you just texted me a couple nights ago. You were watching The Chosen, and I missed this.
Yeah.
But on one of the episodes, that was in
one of the priests,
dialogue.
the main guy. He talked about, in a fortnight, we'll see him. And I was like, how did Chuck miss that?
Oh, because I'm deaf.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I actually watched it with closed captions. So, yeah, I can't believe I missed it either, but that's cool. It's been a lot of fun.
That's good.
We'll do it again.
Well, please, if you're listening to this, we would love for you to do a review wherever you're listening to this. If you could follow us, get people to follow us, not just subscribe, but follow us on social media, Revival Town Podcast, on Instagram. We send out a lot of different things during the week. So make sure you're doing that. Also, we haven't really promoted this, Chuck, but if you want to follow us personally, Instagram's the best way. For me, it's Andy Britt, Andy, A-N-D-Y, Britt, B-R-I-T. What's your handle, as they say?
PLONKER That's it. Plonker Chuck. No, mine is Chuck E. Tate. Chuck E. like Chuck E. Cheese, but Chuck E. Tate. I mean, like Chuck Norris. And that's it. My handle is the same on every social media platform: Instagram, Twitter. If you're a TikToker, come on.
Wow. Man, you're with the cool kids.
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So, and when we say follow us, this is the podcast is for you, and we've each episode features a different individual who has made an impact, has a story to share, and you're going to benefit from listening. It's not for us. We're getting a lot out of it from these interviews. So thank you so much for taking time to follow. And if you're on Apple, give us a rating, or if you can on Spotify, give us a review. We'd appreciate that.
Well, until next week, we just want to say thank you so much for listening, and let people know. And thanks for listening to Revival Town Podcast this week. Chuck, I will see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
All right, mate. See you soon.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Revival Town Podcast. Make sure you're following us on social media and remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, head on over to revivaltownpodcast.com.